I met Jeff Luers probably about 10 years ago as he was getting ready to go to trial after being charged with one of the first Earth Liberation arsons that was prosecuted in the United States. And through the last probably 10 years, I've come to know him as a friend as well as a client. He was originally convicted to almost 23 years in prison for arson and possession of an incendiary device. He appealed that sentence, and after many years of litigation, the sentence he received was overturned. He came back to Lane County Circuit Court and was sentenced to 9.5 years. He's been out of jail now for a year or 2 years?
18 months.
For 18 months. And 4 days. Excuse me. And this is like I mentioned, this is the first year that he has been able to speak at this event that originated on his behalf. So with that, I'll introduce to you Jeffrey Luers.
Thank you. So today's actually kind of a sad day for me because I have the dubious honor of continuing a legacy that I wish had ended with me. In 2001, June 11, 2001, like Lauren said, I was sentenced to 22 years. And I think we can imagine how that changed my life, but it changed activist communities across the nation, and it definitely impacted our community here in Eugene. But we rose to that challenge. We did not collapse under the weight of state repression, and it took a lot of time for our community and for activists to swing that around. In fact, it took 4 years. But on June 11th, 2004, thanks to my support group, activists here in Eugene and activists internationally, we held the first International Day of Solidarity with me. And it always feels really weird to say that out loud. But 48 cities, more than a dozen countries spread across 4 continents across the world held solidarity events and actions demanding my release. In fact, the U.S. Embassy in Moscow was attacked and spray painted with giant letters that said, "Free Jeff Luers." And I cannot tell you what that feels like when you're sitting inside a prison cell, to know that 4 years into your 22-year sentence, people are still out there fighting for the things that you fought for, still out there fighting to get you out. And that's what we need to be doing for Eric David and Marie Mason. In 2006, sadly, the hammer really fell, and what started with Critter and myself spread to communities all over this place. It spread to our friends and our family as FBI strike forces simultaneously raided homes across the nation. Our friends are rounded up in Operation Backfire. Eric McDavid was arrested. And today, we have numerous of our own people in prison. Marie Mason, Eric McDavid, Daniel McGowan, Nathan Exile Block, Joanna Sadie Zucker, Grant Barnes, Michael Skies, Steve Murphy, and Brianna Waters is still awaiting her fate. These are the people that we have locked up right now. So June 11th is an important day. For me, for 9.5 years, what June 11th meant was I was 1 year closer to getting out. It meant I got to check that year off on the calendar. Marie Mason serving 21 years. Eric McDavid's doing 19. That's a lot of calendars. And I know what it's like to be sitting in their shoes, facing that many years. And I also know what it's like to get feedback from events like this that are happening all over the place and have your spirits lifted by the fact that people are still honoring your memory, still supporting you to get you out, still remembering that you're there. But June 11th has come to mean something different for me now. I'm no longer locked up. So it's a reminder that even though I'm free, I still have far, far too many friends on the other side of those prison walls. Friends that literally were on my support network and tried to get me out of prison. Friends that I tree sat with and I watched on the news as they got arrested. These are people that are part of our community. They share our same principles and beliefs. They struggle for the same things that we struggle for. And we have an obligation to them and to ourselves to support them through this crisis in their life. Prison's a hard place. They're going to have to experience it alone. There's nothing that we can do to make their days easier. But what we can do is let them know that we're still out here for them, that we're not going to forget them, and that we're going to continue to struggle. So I'm going to do something a little bit different tonight, something I haven't done in a very, very long time. People are probably familiar with the fact that I wrote while I was in prison. You might have even read some of my dispatches. What is slightly less well known is that long before I ever sat in a tree, threw a rock at a cop, or even lit things on fire, I did spoken word at open night mics across Eugene. In fact, one judge has referred to my poetry as the most inflammatory anarchist rhetoric call for revolution that he's ever heard. I hope that I can actually live up to that. So this first one I wrote shortly after Obama came into office, and it's called 1461. Power has changed hands, but power has not changed. When the corrupt still rule and injustice remains, 1,461 days is not a democracy when things change the same. Another 1,461 days to your next opportunity to vote freedom away. Yeah, the people have spoken, but they haven't said much. Disgusted with red, voters re-elect blue. In a two-party system, you freedom to choose between jerk number one and jerk number two. And freedom is right when you give yours away. Buy stock in apathy, it's the American way. Antarctica, Greenland, Alaska is melting. In Baghdad, Iraq, innocent people are dying. In half of the world, children are starving, while here in America, obesity is killing. But thinner is better if you watch the TV, body images marketed to kids and preteens, and thousands of young girls succumb to the fantasy. There's something horribly, horribly wrong with a society that encourages eating disorders and plastic surgery, while children kill children and rampant school shootings. And corporations get tax breaks for polluting the land, so much that babies are already born poisoned by more than 400 chemicals and industrial solvents. Progress, convenience, or just ignorance killing us. Power has changed hands, but power has not changed. When the corrupt still rule and injustice remains, 1,461 days is not a democracy when things change the same. Stay the same. This next one is untitled. The only people that have ever heard it shared a cell with me, so hopefully you like it. The innocence of youth dies in the teacher's smile. Brainwashed children repeat multiplication tables and recite history as told by those who don't want us to remember that schools are like factories and that they churn out workers who will slave away their lives working for someone else from 9 to 5, age 18 to 65, trading half their lives for a piece of paper so they can afford to buy goods from the very people they work for. Taught from the beginning to submit to authority, to replenish the ranks of the working class folly. After all, there are limits to upward mobility when 1% of the population already owns half of everything, and middle class America just keeps on working with their heads buried in the sand and never questioning the lies they are told to keep them placated, insulated from truth. Their minds become vacant. Confused and distracted, luxury becomes necessity, want becomes need, the new capitalist ideology, addicted to oil, addicted to technology. Like an addict, our society fails to act responsibly. Corporations run amok, marketing the theory of consuming finite resources infinitely. America flourishes on ignorance and apathy, but there's a price to be paid for the illusion of prosperity. Pollution causes cancer, the end result of industry that destroys our planet and poisons our bodies. The climate is changing, the water is polluted. When everything goes extinct, can you still call it progress? Gone is the buzz of the bees, the fluttering of the monarch's wings. Gone are the giant trees and exotic animals that once breathed. So many signs we should all know how to read. Out of tune, out of step, out of place, we fall from grace. Freedom we leave behind, deceived by our own lies, passed down for generations disguised as truth. Capitalism will make you rich, it only costs your soul. Bow down before a god of material wealth, and you're not free. You're a machine, just another manufactured commodity. Bow down before a god of material wealth, and you're not free, just another capitalist casualty. Louder? I'm not stepping up anymore, that's a bright light.
Here, let me go.
I can move forward here. I can come out here. So this last one, not the best thing I've ever written, but it's the most important and dear to my heart. I wrote it a few days after December 7th, 2006, when I watched far too many faces I know show up on the television screen, charged with the same things I was charged with, and charged with domestic terrorism. And I thought about those people and the fact that I really did stand on the streets with some of them. That some of them did actions for me and were going to prison for it. And I thought about how All the people that I support and all the people that I love that are in prison are standing strong every day because they do have the courage of their convictions. And thank Goddess, there's still people out there that are still struggling under the shadows of night. So this is called Warrior's Song, and this is for them. This is for our heroes, whose names will go unsung, for our captured and our fallen, who bravely stood their ground. You are not forgotten, we will never forget. This song is for you with our love and respect. This is for the ELF, ALF, and revolutionary cells, for our warriors who risk everything fighting for a better world. This is for our black-clad army battling in the streets. This is for our mighty warriors who never see defeat. Thank you for your courage and thank you for your strength. Thanks for taking action. Thanks for rising from your knees. And here's to the better world you are helping to create. Here's to the pride and glory you willingly forsake. You could be any one of us standing in the crowd. We may never know who you are, but you've made us proud. And with all of my heart, I thank you for fighting the good fight, for caring enough to stand up and do what you think's right. Together we fought for the forests. Together we fought in the streets. We laughed when the banks were smashed and we forced the police retreat. We celebrated each victory with a beer in our hands and anguished over the conviction of our captured friends. And when my turn came, I held to my beliefs. I stood strong during trial and I refused to say I'm sorry. And even in a cage, I refused to bow my head, and I raised a clenched fist to show this struggle's far from dead. And I say thank you for your sacrifices. Thank you for your deeds. Thanks for taking action. Thanks for rising from your knees. Here's to the better world you're helping to create. Here's to the pride and glory you willingly forsake. You could be any one of us sitting in this room. I may never know who you are, but you've made me proud. And with all of my heart, I thank you for fighting the good fight, for caring enough to stand up and do what you think's right. Someday we will win, and I hope to shake your hand, to look you in the eye and thank you for my freedom. And we'll stand together and watch as the last corporations burn, and together we'll rebuild a brand new earth. We'll reclaim our land, we'll reclaim our space. True liberation is what we'll celebrate. But until that day comes, I hope this is enough for you to know you're loved and honored and needed very much. And if you're ever caught, know we will always be here. We will fight until you are free, just like you fought to free the earth. Thank you all.